Hello everybody and welcome to Whiz, your family-friendly podcast where we discuss D&D Onslaught, Dice Masters, Heroclix, and the other entertaining games made by Wizkids. I'm WizDad. I'm gonna own this curse. I'm gonna use it against you. Whenever innocent blood is spilt, it'll be my father's blood, and you'll find me there. A spirit of vengeance, fighting fire with fire. I will be your guide for navigating the competitive and casual scenes of the WizKids Triforce of gaming. It's Heroclix Friday, and if you couldn't tell by my very poor delivery of that quote from 2007's Ghost Rider starring Nicolas Cage, today we are talking Wheels of Vengeance and the spoilers we've seen thus far. The whole set hasn't been spoiled yet. But before we get through that, let's go over the WizKids Progress Report.
Kowalski, progress report.
As we continue this off-season of WizKids gaming, essentially, I will mention that we do have some updates when it comes to at least releases. For Heroclix, we do have some date updates. Is that the right word? So we do have an official date for. So they've kind of updated the solicits essentially, and finally moved all the Wheel of Vengeance stuff to November, which is when it's coming out. So this month we've gotten Death of Superman. Now, it says here 2 days ago, the Bag of Spider-Man and the starter set, the Marvel starter set, was released. So check in with your locals, see if they received it. If they haven't yet, because all the WizKids Heroclix releases happen on a Wednesday, I know for my store locally, typically our Alliance order sometimes comes in the beginning of the week. So that might mean that we miss it, and it might be the following week that we finally get the stuff that we ordered. So the release date is quote unquote the release date, but it really is going to depend on your local store and their distributor on when you actually get it. But as of now, Bag of Spider-Man and the Marvel HeroClix Starter Set 2024 has been released. So it's out there, guys. Go and get it. We also know for November, we do have some dates. Almost everything in November has a date except for the Bag of Starfights. Once again, like I've mentioned before, Wakanda Forever organized play and the WizKids single figure displays are set for the beginning of November, because November 1st is a Wednesday. So they're set for that day. Wheels of Vengeance is November 8th, which means not this time next week. Is it really next week? Yeah, and this time next Wednesday, so we're 5 days away from pre-release of Wheels of Vengeance, so even more excitement there. The DC starter set has now a release date of the 15th of November. Same with the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday calendar, and same as the Wheels of Vengeance Dice and Token Pack. I don't know why the Dice and Token Pack are a week later, but they are, so surprise. And then to celebrate, what is better for... Actually, I guess, when is Thanksgiving? I guess that's a question, because Thanksgiving does fall a little... Alright, it is the 23rd. That's what I thought. To celebrate Thanksgiving, the HeroClix Iconic Hall of Armor comes out the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So I know a lot of people are off of work the day before Thanksgiving. So guess what? You get to have a fun day of opening that beautiful Iconics of Hall of Armor, hopefully, and enjoy that. So that's actually pretty exciting. The Hall of Armor, I can't wait to see. That is one of the Iconics I'm rushing out to get, because I love shifting focus aspects. Outside of that, keep in mind December is going to be light. There's no releases outside of a Spider-Verse OP play kit and the Royal Flush Storyline OP kit, which, if you haven't looked at the Storyline OP kit, I can't remember if we went through it a little bit with the GCU review, which should be posted later today is my goal, or tomorrow morning. Ace from that, the legacy card for Ace, I think is amazing. I'm actually playing it in the Bradcast event for round 2, just because Ace is fantastic. The rest of the figures, they're good together, not so good apart. So take that as you will. But that's pretty much all we've got going. And once again, this is the off season. We've got one set coming out, but we don't have a lot of tournaments going on. The only major tournament we have currently is kind of the broadcast farewell tour that is now into round 2, and has been a lot of fun thus far. I lost my first match due to some misplays and some bad dice on my part, but I'm excited for round 2 because this is a double elimination tournament, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. So speaking of Wheels of Vengeance and Halloween and all of that, why don't we get into, let's just jump straight into Fishing with WizDad, and let's go over the figures we've seen thus far and which ones you need to be picking out for your pre-release next week, right? If you're like my local, we try to do battle royales and stuff for pre-releases. That way everyone kind of gets figures they want, and then release day is more for constructed. So let's dig into some of the figures we know, so that way you can figure out which ones you want to grab at your pre-release.
Get your gear, little man. We're going fishing. And I mean now.
So before we really jump into Wheels of Vengeance, I want to kind of talk a little bit about what I mentioned a second ago. So how we handle for our store is, because it's a small group, there's like 5 of us, 6 of us, we've introduced a few things, and I've mentioned this before on the podcast. I learned this from Heroclix when I went to their last event. What we've started doing is we've started doing a 300-point team battle royale, and we like to do that for pre-releases, sometimes releases if we want to get more figures. And essentially, we just, the 4 of us, if there's 4 of us, basically buy in for a brick. I think the entry ends up being like $40, something like that. And basically, we each get 2 boosters, which leaves 2 boosters extra. And then we open those 2 boosters and make the best 300-point team that we could play. And then we play a BR in that style. And then we draft everything like a BR, including opening those final 2 boosters that no one got, and throw those into the middle. When I saw David Newmark doing that at Heroclix, I thought it was a genius idea. Like, it's great for a new set, especially when no one has any of the figures. It opens up the prizing, because, you know, sometimes with a BR you get 1 booster and you're kind of like, you know, everyone pulls a rare and you're bummed out. And it's especially good if you're at a local that may not have extra prizing, right? Because the legacy card also gets thrown into the prizing. So this kind of gives local stores a way of doing a BR without having any additional prizing. You can use a legacy card, you can have the 2 boosters, because you're effectively buying 2 boosters, and in a brick, remember, you typically get a chase and at least 3 super rares, sometimes a prime and 3 super rares, sometimes 4 super rares, sometimes, you know, it ebbs and flows, but the bare minimum is at least like a prime and 3 super rares. So at least you're leaving with some figures you want and a super rare and some rares, and a legacy card, right? Like, that's not for nothing. So that's especially good for pre-release when no one has the set. Everyone's eager to get some of the commons. Allows them to kind of pick and choose. Like, if they don't want certain commons and uncommons, cool. That lets them pick and choose. That lets them, you know, get their stack of cards and start going through, all right, what do I have? What do I don't have? So I emphasize doing that at your local. If you've got a smaller group or you got a bigger group and you have 8 people, think about doing that instead of just 2 booster sealed. Allows you to kind of play in a fun BR format and throw everything in at the end. And just do an extended BR if you don't want it to. You don't have to abide by the like an hour rule. You could do 2 hours and it's still fun. We do the revive rules that Wizkids implemented for X of Swords, because that's been a great improvement on BR. So I just want to make a quick sidebar to mention that, because it's been great for our store. I love it, and you should embrace it too. So we're speaking of pre-releases, we are going to talk about Wheels of Vengeance. I want to kind of highlight some pieces. This is not my full set review because the full set hasn't been out, but I wanted to highlight some pieces that I am interested in that have been previewed. Now, we're still missing, I think, about 20 pieces, 12 pieces. I saw a number today, and I can't remember how many we're missing. I know we've got all of the commons. We're missing a couple uncommons, a couple rares. We're not missing that many super rares, to be honest. We've seen quite a few. We are missing, obviously, some chases. So and quite a bit of the legacy cards. So let's talk about just kind of running through some. I'm not going to talk about every figure because once again, I do a set review very quickly, and I don't want to I don't want to say this be the set review and then do another set review and you're hearing me say the same thing. So the first piece that I really want to talk about, let's talk about the generics a little bit. That would be the zombie, the mummy, the fire demon. There's a yeti in there as well, and a werewolf. Let's talk about those a bit. If you weren't around in Heroclix, oh goodness, 6 years ago? I don't remember how long the Undead set was, but it was a... how to frame it? It was a relatively well-received set, but a fairly poor, like, competitive set. It had a lot of meat. It was just a gravity feed. Had some very neat figures in it. It had some okay, like, meta pieces. Like, it had a Dr. Frankenstein that did some cool things with support. It had a Jacob Marley, Ghost of Abraham Lincoln, Frankenstein's monster. It was a very cool set with some generic zombies, werewolves, stuff like that. So this is very much piggybacking off of that concept, kind of taking a bunch of those pieces. Not the same, obviously, but that same concept. Because I think that part was well received. People have been calling for undead pieces, generics like this for a while. So the Werewolf 004, 30 points to 15 points. I think the golden point for it is the 15-point line. It's got sidestep blades, battle fury, combat reflexes, and then it has a trait, Moon, Harvest, or Blood. At the beginning of your turn, roll d6 for all friendly characters with a moon trait. Werewolf can use the resulting event until your next turn. 1 through 4 shape change, 5 through 6 modify attack +1, and flurry. I think werewolves are really cool, especially from a not necessarily from a competitive point, though there's a figure later we'll talk about that could use them, but I think also from a casual standpoint. I know I wasn't able to attend this year, but locally we do a big Halloween event, and we already ran it due to time constraints. And when we run it, we use a lot of Heroclix, a lot of different kind of spooky pieces, and picking up werewolves and zombies and mummies and stuff is great for that. It's great to kind of have an army of werewolves and zombies and mummies that you can use for a fun, fun casual event. So if I were playing, I would want to pick up a couple of these, probably like 3 or 4 werewolf. Definitely for werewolves, I would pick up at least like 5. There's a figure later we're going to talk about that creates 3 of them. So you want at least 3. Zombies, 3 of each, I think you would probably be okay with. The zombie, you can play it on any of its 3 lines. When zombies KO'd after resolutions, generate a grave hindering terrain marker in the square they last occupied. Protected pulse wave. And then it has 3 clicks. 3 clicks for each of the 3 starting lines. First one is just sidestep, empower, and then like no attack or defense. But it does have Underworld TA. So that's not for naught. That's something. There's also charge. There's also a click of just charge and shape change. That's neat. And then another click of just poison and invuln. So the zombies honestly aren't that bad. They remind me of the old Morlocks that used to be able to just be carried around and have that empower for cheap. So definitely pick up some zombies. I think they're perfectly fine to want to pick up at pre-releases. Start building your zombie horde, because you know what? The charging one does 2 damage. I mean, that's something. Having an army of those coming up would be kind of fun to play against as a fun little scenario. Next up is Mummy. Mummy is pretty good also, to be fair. It's 6 clicks for 30 points. That's double the golden ratio of 1 click for every 10 points. Sidestep, super strength, 16 invincible, mummy can't be healed or chosen for mastermind. So that's pretty good, right? Like a little army of mummies, which I don't know if you really see an army of mummies now that I think about it. But an army of mummies would be cool to be able to come up and just start picking up objects and slamming them on you, picking up some of the grave markers the zombies might leave behind and just smashing you with them. And hard to take out. You can outwit them, sure, but 6 damage to take out 1 for 30 points is pretty good. Pretty good. The fire demons, I don't know if fire demon is technically a generic. It says real name various, so I believe it is. Fire demon at 008, 45 points, charge, blades, super senses, mystics. Once per turn when an opposing character deals damage to fire demon, if that damage wasn't from an attack, after resolutions deal that opposing character 1 penetrating damage. Another really cool generic that, yeah, I mean, I could see in doing another scenario where you can have just a bunch of fire demons, some of the demonic, like, there's a bunch of other figures we're going to get to, but kind of doing a big demon type scenario. And I'll mention this for casual players. There's nothing wrong with 300 point modern, 300 pulp, anything like that. One thing I do emphasize that I think some players like, and I know I like it sometimes too, is a fun PvE. I've mentioned this for Onslaught so many times, so you're probably tired of hearing this. I like a PvE PvP type thing. So player versus environment / player versus player, to where my goal isn't necessarily to just take out my opponent's figures. I can score points, win games by taking out NPCs, like generic monsters. And my goal is to maybe get to this end zone, like running down a hallway and running past fire demons and werewolves and stuff. That's exciting for me, because sometimes, their dice might be better than mine. Sometimes my dice might be better for theirs, and if I win, sometimes I feel bad for winning if my dice were just inherently better. And sometimes I want to sit down and have fun and it not be necessarily super competitive to where I'm just trying to beat whatever craziness they brought. So think of that when you're coming up with fun games for your local, a cool PvE scenario. And if you can't make it for this Halloween, don't forget Nightmare Before Christmas. So you could do kind of like have it more tailored for Christmas to where Halloween is taking over, and use some of the Christmas figures. There's a lot of cool concepts you could come up with. But that's where these generics come in. You're getting a bunch of these right in time for Halloween, right in time for Christmas if you want to do that Nightmare Before Christmas scenario. And, maybe that'd be fun to come up with some of these scenarios so that way you can use them at home for free and use them at your local and just have prizes for whoever scores the most points or stuff like that. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think it'd be a whole lot of fun, especially with the starter set coming with a blank map. I think that also helps because people are worried about what maps do we use. I could come up with maps too. So this would be a fun idea. The last one that I'll talk about, because there's vampires and yetis. The vampires are not nearly as good because they start on click 3 and they heal, and even if they heal, they have no move and attack. So sure, that's fine. And then you have the yeti. The yeti's okay. It's a charge piece, 45 points, 5 clicks. It's a giant, Blaze Claw's Fang, super strength, Battle Fury, toughness. So a bunch of yetis would be pretty fun. They modify Yeti's defense +1 for each action token they have. That's funny. So I like it. I think the generics on this are pretty neat, and definitely some you want to pick up either during your pre-release or at your release or whenever you buy your brick, however you want to do it. Keep in mind for this set, don't forget, this is a 4-figure set, a 4-figure booster. You are getting a double booster, a double base figure, so a peanut base figure in every booster. Don't get me started on that. I hate the concept. I feel like I should be getting 5 figures, but if you look at the booster, there's a place to put 4 single base figures. But either way, the last common I really want to talk about, because I do think it has meta potential, is Night Nurse, 20 points. Defenders, Heroes for Hire, Marvel Knights, and Scientists. I didn't talk about her at the GCU talk, but she would be on the list of potential bring-ins. She has support. Adjacent friendly characters that share a keyword with Night Words can reduce penetrating damage, and that is her damage power. So that could be outwitted, but that means they're wasting their outwit to remove your protection from penetrating damage, or that ability to reduce it. She has 18 defend. It's pretty good. Like, for 20 points, you could do a lot worse. I think she's much better than Aunt May, depending on the team, right? If you're a team that doesn't have penetrating, like, invuln or toughness, maybe not. But otherwise, sure, why not? It's not that bad. Skipping over a few more pieces real quick, because it isn't that they're bad. It's just, once again, I don't want to talk about every single figure right now. Just some of the ones I think you need to pick up before going into your pre-release. Man, kind of just looking at these uncommons, some of them are okay. There's a lot of higher point figures, really. Is there no one? There's a 50 point. Okay, and there's a hand ninja. Okay, so that's about the lower point ones. And now we don't have all of the uncommons yet. Nightmare, no. Robbie, sure, it's fine. I guess we'll go ahead and go to probably the best uncommon we have gotten in a significant amount of time. I'll just go ahead and go into it. And that is Hell Cycle. Now, Hell Cycle is going to be in your peanut base. It is a 2x2, or not 2x2, 1x2, I should say. And it's not a character. It looks like a character. It's not a character. It is equipment. Let me read what it is. Indestructible. Equip any. Unequip drop a large object. If Hell Cycle is on the map, characters can occupy its squares. Adjacent characters can be given a power to equip Hell Cycle as if they were in its square. Hell Cycle is not unique. That's a huge one. Effect. When equipped, turn Hell Cycle's dial to any click. This character positively modifies their speed by Hell Cycle's speed value and can use the powers displayed on Hell Cycle's dial. And then it has a special defense power of Mystic. So you have 3 clicks to work with. This is 15 points. First click has sidestep, poison, and a +1 to speed. Click 2, hypersonic, ESD, +1 to speed. And click 3, leap climb, mystics, and a +2 to speed. So let's break this down a little bit, because this is a crazy good piece. All that first bit about if Hell Cycle's on the map, blah, 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 that is only relevant for when it drops. It has unequipped drop. When it drops, it can't drop in your square. So all that writing there is just to say it goes in a square adjacent, and you can't be in its square. You can't stand in its square. And then the rest of the wording is just saying how you equip it if it drops. Because obviously you have to be in the square to pick it up, right? So if you can't be in the square, it has to have wording to explain it. The other key thing from that wording is it lists that Hell Cycle is not unique. Equipment is typically unique. If it has the little gear, that means it's a special object, which means they're unique. This is not. So that means your whole crew could be riding on Hell Cycles. 15 points gives you access to either sidestep or poison. Fantastic. We just lost the cloak. Oh no. Well, guess what, guys? 15 points now get you to cloak and poison and a +1 to speed. We also just lost the surfboard, the surfer's surfboard, which gave you hypersonic. And I think you got an action token if you weren't cosmic or something like that. Oh no. Well, 15 points. You now have hypersonic and ESD and a +1 to speed. And then we already have the Soul Sword, which is way better than this. But in the event that you wanted more speed, maybe you already have phasing, you could do the Hell Cycle to give +2 speed. And you give Mystics, which can be very, very useful. Mystics is very dangerous. And thanks to this set, going to be prevalent everywhere. So this figure is amazing. It's probably the first time you're going to be excited to see a peanut base that is an uncommon, because you probably want multiple. Being able to give just hypersonic ESD to someone for 15 points is huge. Being able to equip sidestep again is huge. We don't have a lot of, like, outside of the rings, we don't have a lot of equipment. We have the ones from, we have the bat belt, we have the rings, and we have the Spider-Man ones, which, you know, those are okay. They're kind of defensive, give a little attacks, but there's no move and attack in them or anything. This gives you a move and attack. So, absolutely, reach for the Hell Cycles. You want at least 3 or 4 of them, if not more. This is a great, great figure. Like, I can't believe they made this, to be perfectly honest. And made it not unique. That's the bigger thing. The fact that you can spend 45 points to give half your team hypersonic ESD is pretty good. Because think about all the pieces we've looked at or talked about that you're like, there's no move and attack. What a bummer. Well, guess what? 15 points gives you a move and attack. Gives you a hypersonic. That makes everything better. Everything better. Going down through some of the others, you got a Hand Ninja. The Hand Ninja, I believe, was also a 1x2 peanut base, so keep that in mind. Going into the rares that we have, Dracula is neat, but once again, if the vampires were better, we'd be more interested. But you also got to look at all these figures and look at them from the perspective of, what if I put them on the Hell Cycle? Like Sasquatch. Like, what if I throw Sasquatch on the Hell Cycle? Neat. So we've got 2 Damon Hellstroms. They're neat. One of them is a Prime. Sure, neat. I'll talk about Doc Sasquatch real quick. 80 points. He's a Prime, but he's only 4 clicks, so he is not in the golden ratio. Sorta. When Doc Sasquatch would be KO'd by an opposing effect, instead roll a d6 and place a result on his card. If the result is not already on his card, turn him to click 1. Otherwise, KO him. He's got Perplex. When Doc Sasquatch uses it to target another friendly character he shares a keyword with, instead modify all the target's combat values +1. Sweet. And then he has Invulnerability, Leap Climb, Super Strength, Outwit. He's 80 points, like I mentioned, which isn't great. But he's at least double the amount of clicks. So keep that in mind, because when he would be KO'd, you roll d6 and place it on the card. If that d6 isn't, whatever you rolled isn't already on his card, turn to click 1. So when he gets first KO'd, there's no die on his card. So instantly, you roll a die, put it on his card, and then take him back up. So he's got 8 clicks, really, minimum. But then, next time he's KO'd, if you roll a 6, and you have a 3 on there, okay, the 6 is now on the card with the other one, and he goes back to 1. So worst case scenario, he's 8 clicks. Best case scenario, he's 24 clicks. He could be outwitted, sure, but he is not bad. He's really not bad. Good keywords: Hulkbuster, X Factor, Animal, Brute, Monster, Scientist. 4 great keywords. So at first glance, he looks incredibly overcosted, 80 points, but when you break it down to, technically he's got 8 clicks to start with before the bare minimum of him being KO'd. Okay, that's a golden ratio for me. 8 clicks, 80 points, alright. Next. And if you get lucky and you roll 6 and you roll a 1 the next time, hey, you're up to 12. So I like Doc Sasquatch. Don't sleep on him. At first glance, he looks bad, 80 points for 4 clicks. But I love the way he works, especially with the green door and everything. That's pretty fantastic. Looking at some of these different ones with the Spirit of Vengeance, it's something interesting to keep in mind. I would just keep it in mind. The only other rare I really want to talk about today, we could talk about the pilot feature real quick before I talk about the rare I want to talk about. So pilot. The pilot mechanic works like this. When revealing your force, you may choose a single base character on your sideline that is named whatever's listed on their card. it'll say pilot and it'll have a name or a keyword or whatever. So for 035 Moon Knight, it lists Moon Knight and Marvel Knights. Choose a single base character on your sideline that is named Moon Knight or has the Marvel Knights keyword and turn it to any click. Moon Knight can use the standard attack and damage powers displayed on that character's dial. When Moon Knight is KO'd, before removing him from the map, generate the chosen character from your sideline on its last non-KO click. This game, that character can't be healed or replaced and isn't scored when KO'd. Protected Pulse Wave. So, if anyone remembers the old vehicle trade, the old vehicle, how it used to work was you would be next to the vehicle, you take a power action, hop in the vehicle, and then the vehicle gets a copy of the attack and damage, I believe, of the pilot, and then did its thing. And when it died, the pilot would come out, and then you'd roll and take either 1 or 2 damage or something like that. But you could score the vehicle, and then you could score the pilot. In this case, I think it's way better. Because one, the vehicles are way better. Like this Moon Knight here for rare, 65 points, 6 clicks, so meh. But he has Perplex, Shape Change, Incap, Toughness, Running Shot, and you think, oh, well, that doesn't sound great. But you get whatever attack powers and defense, like attack and shape change powers from the pilot and Moon Knight and Marvel Knights. Well, guess what? We got a really good Moon Knight not long ago that is 200 points. So when he pops out, this is the 001, the OP kit Moon Knight. When he pops out, he has Hypersonic, and when he uses it after resolutions, he may deal 1 penetrating damage to a character he moved through that action. Steel Energy, which won't matter in this instance, Invuln, and Close Combat Expert. So he's a 12 for 5 Hypersonic, and your buggy is going to have Close Combat Expert, and, well, you could turn him to any click. So you turn on to click 1, which is Pensai and Prob, or Pulse Wave and Outwit. So the key thing, though, is you do have to choose one, I believe, at the very beginning. So when you do put him on there, you turn it to any click, and there's no way of turning him to a different click, right? Whatever you choose, you choose. And I should have mentioned that's the same for the Hell Cycle. You choose when you equip which of those 3 clicks you go on. You can't swap in between unless you kind of like swap the object with Mad Jim. There's no way to swap that. Same with the pilots. Whatever you choose at the beginning is what you have until the thing is gone. So a peanut base that is running shot, 8 movement, so 4 with the running shot, 5 range, give it Pensai, Prob, and Perplex and Shape Change. For 65 points, that's not bad. And when he gets KO'd, out pops his really good Moon Knight that can't heal, can't be replaced, and isn't scored. So they're only scoring 65, and they got to take out this Moon Knight. So very cool concept with Pilot. I love what they did with it. Pretty much means most of these that have the Pilot keyword, Pilot trait, which if I'm running through all the ones we've seen thus far, we have honestly not that many. I don't see any in the commons and uncommons. We have... Man, is Moon Knight the first one with the pilot trait? I thought Elektra had it. Oh, Elektra's next. Elektra has it also, but she's the more close combat one. She's 037. And then I know we have some of the super rares that have it. But definitely, if you see any of these pilot characters, absolutely pick up one of the pilot characters. You want them for that trait. It's very good, and you never know what the potential is going to be going down the road. I'd like to also honorable mention Orb. Orb is funny. Orb's attack rolls of Snake Eyes 1/1 are critical hits instead of critical misses. When Orb attacks, you may replace 1 die in his attack roll with a 1. Once per game, you may choose that a friendly character's critical miss becomes a critical hit. If you do, Orb can't use his trait this game. He's 7 clicks for 45. He's got traded Charge Flurry, but only if he's crossed the rim of elevated terrain this turn. When Orb attacks, modifies attack +1 for each of the following he moved through. hindering terrain, blocking terrain, and characters. And he ignores. He doesn't ignore characters, so that is, he can move through characters, but he has to break away. So he doesn't ignore characters; he just moves through them. It's something interesting to note, just because of Mr. Sinister still exists, and while he lost Moira, Orb is able to kind of make his attacks have a 1, which help you get that 1 that you need for rally. But I think he's funny. Going through some of the super rares that we know thus far, you know, Lilith is interesting because she has power. This is the prime Lilith, 41B. Enhancement in power. She's 50 points, 5 clicks, free. Place Lilith adjacent to another friendly character that shares a keyword with her. And she has power action once per game. Choose a character with a monster keyword on her sideline. If that character's point value is less than the total point value of all characters in your KO area generated on its starting click, your opponent scores that character now instead of when it's KO'd. I only mention that because that's an interesting effect. Being able to say, oh, I've lost, 50 points of characters, and then Lilith's able to just bring in a 40-point figure that they immediately score, but it might be something you need in that moment. It starts on its starting click. It's generated. It would just be generated next to her because it doesn't say where it's generated. So that could be pretty clutch. So that's something to keep in mind. Brother Voodoo, sure. Rawhide Kid. Headless Horseman is another pilot with Assassin and Soldier. Definitely a good super rare to pick up. Blade is another one for Blade and Monster. Another great one to pick up. Then you have Super Rare Ghost Rider that has Ghost Rider Midnight Suns for their pilot ability. And then we're getting into the chases. And real briefly, all the chases thus far, pretty good, pretty interesting, especially when you keep in mind the fact that they can have a Hell Cycle that gives them a better move and attack. The main one I would probably want to bring up is what I think is the most meta one we've got thus far is Cap Wolf. He has the pilot ability Wolf on 2 wheels. When revealing your force, you may choose a single base character on your sideline that is named Captain America or has the monster keyword. So he has those 2. Those are really good keywords. Monster means you can get a Hulk out that does like 6 damage. It's pretty nuts. The Legacy Hulk, I believe, from A60. He also generates up to 3 werewolves on the red starting line, so they're 15 point. And that's up to 3, so you can choose 0 if you don't want to generate any. Leadership, when he succeeds, you may generate another werewolf, so that's neat on either starting line. So you could bring them in on their, I believe they have a flurry dot? No, they have a charge blades one. So you can bring him in on that one, and that's pretty neat. And then his moon bark at the moon. At the beginning of your turn, roll a d6 for all friendly characters with the moon trait. 1 through 4, he has shape change. 5 through 6, free. Generate the character chosen for Cap Wolf's pilot trait on its last non-KO click, and that character makes an attack. After resolutions, return it to your sideline on any click. So, 1, you hit that, 5 through 6. That means you can change effectively what the character does, like what click it's on. So that gives Cap Wolf some flexibility on what you choose. But also it gets to come in and make an attack. So if you chose the Hulk, he just comes in, hits, and it's an attack. It's not big attack, so you don't get flurry or anything. It just comes in, punches or shoots, goes away. It's a free action to activate that. So beginning of the turn, you roll that, and then if you roll the 5 or 6, that means Cap Wolf can make that free action whenever he wants. So he could zoom over, drop someone that can do the free attack, and then it just goes back to their sideline. That's crazy powerful. So it's something to note. Doesn't mean it's like, it's hard to look at that and look at some of the other crazy undercosted pieces we have, like Carnage Silver Surfer and whatnot, but it's very good, I would say. Like, I would really like it. If you're looking at the legacy cards, we've only seen 3. We saw the Daniel Powell's Iron Man, which was from Avengers Assembled, I believe. The Chase, that one is pretty good. Jack-o'-lantern is okay for 40 points. It is Sinister Syndicate, so keep that in mind, because that is an okay keyword right now. And then Ghost Rider, 80 points, is somewhat interesting, just because he has free once per game make an attack. Never mind, it's an okay piece, just okay. But yeah, I just wanted to hit on a few pieces that I would look out for, that I would want to pick up. Right now I'm looking at it, I want to pick up the generics. I want to pick up at least one of the pilots. Definitely get whatever health cycles you can. And then obviously, you don't need any explanation. If you get a chase, you get a chase, right? Like, it's not like you're not going to try to pick that in your BORs. But, some of the super rares, I'd lean more towards for the pilots, because the pilots have more flexibility. Like, if you look at the Headless Horseman, you're initially thinking, wow, that's not great. But don't forget, you can equip him. So you can give him hypersonic and give him a pilot. So effectively, these pilot, the vehicles, like, you can equip them with the Hell Cycle and give them a pilot, which effectively is going to give them, sidestep, poison, and whatever attack power and damage power the pilot has. So just keep that in mind, because that's giving out like 4 powers to some of these pretty decently costed figures. Headless Horseman, 60 points for 8 clicks. He can't be healed. He takes a maximum of 1 damage from attacks if the attacker can use Blades, Claws, Fangs, Exploit, Precision Strike, or has a positively modified damage value. That can be outwitted, but still. So keep that in mind when you're picking out pieces. I know for me, I'm going for some of the generics. I'm going for pilots. And if there's any other pieces I'm interested in personally, I'm going for those. So that's really going to do it for this episode. I didn't want to do a full set review once again, because I will do that once we know everything, and I'll break down every piece and kind of go through, hey, here's where if I think they're really good for competitive, or if they're a more casual piece. I think this set is interesting. After the Scott Porter previews, I was kind of mad about it, because he didn't really have good pulls. He had pulled a lot of duplicates, which is not great for a 4-figure booster. But, yeah, seeing all these new previews, I feel better about the set. I think it's going to be very interesting, very fun. I don't know how it'll play sealed. Looks like it'll be interesting sealed-wise. You'll be playing a lot of figures you're not used to playing. And I think, honestly, in Pulp, things get very interesting. The Hell Cycle you can't play in Pulp because it is equipment. But with the whole pilot trait, you do have Moon Knight, you do have Elektra. That leads to some things, right? Leads to some things with Pulp that we'll talk about maybe next week. But thank you guys again for listening. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you on Monday for Dice Master Monday. Have a great day.